All righty. I'm going to give just another 30 seconds or so, allow people to join, and then we'll get going. So it looks like people are still trying to get into the webinar here. There we go. Seeing the numbers go up here. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Hopefully by the time we get to the agenda and some of the agenda items, everyone will have joined. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today for this webinar to take a look at what's new in our Winter 23 release. My name is Mary Balmer. I'm Director of Product Management at Accounting Seed, and I am thrilled to be presenting today along with TK, our amazing product manager, and James Hunter, our guru of all things accounting. Yes, many of you know James, I'm sure, from the support portal. So let's look at our agenda items. We're going to take a look at some new features and enhancements that we included in the Winter 23 release. However, we will not have enough time to cover them all. So please make sure you review the release notes. And the release notes will include details of all the features and enhancements, as well as any required configuration that may be needed to begin using those features. So we're going to talk about and see some demos today of just a few of the new features. And then we're going to take a look at the release schedule so that you know when you can expect the sandbox and production pushes. And then we'll open it up for questions. We would love to answer any questions you may have. Please type them into the questions box and we'll address them following the presentation. And one more point, and I see we're on the next feature here, but one more point about the webinar is that we will be recording it, and a link to the recording will be shared with you. So let's move on now. We're going to talk about Advanced Line Manager component. This is a new user interface component that makes it easy for you to enter both header and line item data in one view. Okay, so similar to what we did in Bank Direct Connect, we designed the line items as expandable and collapsible drawers. So when they're collapsed, you can scan through the line items more quickly, and then you can expand line items for one or more line items. You can expand the drawer to reveal additional fields. The drawer removes the need for that horizontal scrolling from left to right, and it lets you see all the fields related to the line item in that one view. What's really nice is it's configurable, so you can decide which fields you want to see when the line items are collapsed, and which fields you want to see when the drawer is expanded. And you can also configure various properties on the component. For example, when I click on the Add Row button, I want you to add 5 rows instead of 1 row. Or maybe if I'm on the recurring journal entry, I want you to add 2 rows at a time. You can configure how many rows are added when you initially create a new record, such as a recurring billing. And you can configure how you want the line items sorted. So TK is going to walk you through these various configuration options. You can also import line items using a brand new import mechanism that we built for this very purpose. And you can export line items out to a file. You can review them in a file if needed and make changes. And then you can import them back in. So it's a really nice, easy way to make changes to lots of line items and then just simply re-import them back in. So let's talk about this new import mechanism that can be used to import line items into the Advanced Line Manager component, but can also be used as a generic import tool to import other data. Now, I call it a custom import tool. The reason I call it a custom import tool is because it allows you to import accounting seed data, Salesforce data, and even your other custom data. We all know that Data Import Wizard, Data Loader, these tools and other import tools allow you to import data into your Salesforce org one object at a time. Using this new import tool, you can import both header and line item data at the same time. You'll start by creating what we called import templates. So you go to your app launcher, you start typing import template, and you'll find that object, and you can begin creating those pre-configured mapping files. Okay, so during the process of creating these mapping files, you'll browse to an import file that you want to import, and you'll map the columns in that import file to objects and fields in Accounting Seed, and then you can save that to be used at any point in the future as you're importing records from a CSV file. You can select which column in your import file is a column in which you want to group the line items. So in other words, if you're importing 20 recurring billings with both header and line item data, we need to know how to group the line items with each header record in your import file. When you're importing lookup fields like accounting period, like ledger, you'll have the option to import them by name or by ID. Once you create the mapping files, you simply navigate to the pre-configured import template and then browse to your import file, import the data, and you're done. So it's really, really quite easy once you create that mapping file. Now, let's take it back to the Advanced Line Manager. This was where we initially created this import mechanism. So when you're using that during the import, you'll have a choice of either selecting an existing import template record. You only have to create that once, and you can use it over and over and over again. This is your mapping file, or at that time, you can create a new mapping file. So TK, you are going to go into the application and demo this feature. So let's take a look at that.
All right, thank you, Mary. So first of all, again, my name is TK. I'm the new product manager here at Accounting Seed. So let's take a look at the recurring billing and the new Advanced Line Manager feature. So if you were to scroll down to the line component in the recurring billing, you will see we have some additional options here. Add a row, save, import, export, delete. You have a refresh icon, undo, and the redo icons. Now, if I wanted to go ahead and add additional rows to this recurring billing, I will simply click on Add Row, and as you can see, it simply added additional row for me. I can go ahead and create multiple rows, and then start populating the information as needed. We have the drawers here. Simply click on the chevron menu. It will display all of the relevant information that's related to this billing line. You can collapse them. You can also multi-select and take a mass action here by multi-selecting and deleting. And one thing to note here, anytime you are populating the lines, these are saved as a soft save. These will not be permanently saved until you click on the save icon. Now, Mary mentioned that we can actually customize some of the columns that are displayed as far as what you're seeing here when the drawer is collapsed or expanded. And you do that by clicking on the gear icon in the upper right-hand corner. Now, let me go ahead and get out of this. Let me save that. Okay, so once you click on the gear icon, you should be able to see edit page option. I'm not sure why it's not showing here. Let me just refresh my page.
Yeah, so TK, while you're working that out, to configure the columns and the fields in the drawer, there are field sets. You'd go to Object Manager for each object. So in this case, you'd go to the recurring billing, go to Object Manager, and you'll see two new field sets, one for column, one for drawer, and that's where you will identify which fields you want to see in the columns, which fields you want to see in the drawer. I see you're now able to see edit page, TK.
Yes. Yes. So yeah, this happens during the demo, right?
Yeah,
so click on the gear icon, click on edit page. And simply scroll down to the component for billing lines. And this is where you can make some of those modifications. Here's an example of how many rows will be created when you first initially create that new recurring billing record. or how many rows will be added when you click on Add Rows action, as you can see here on that page. You can also specify whether you want the sorting to be ascending or descending. And again, as Mary mentioned, there are field sets that are related to this component, and you would actually modify that in the object manager.
Yeah, before you go, TK, I did want to point out the fields that API name is above in that properties panel. This has been designed and built as a generic component that can be used for custom objects. So if you have other master detail custom objects, let's say you have for service agreement lines, and you want to use this component for your custom objects, you can go ahead and do that, configure your field sets for the custom objects, and then identify the API name in this properties panel, and you're set to go. It can be used for not only accounting C data, but your custom objects. Okay.
Okay, so let me go back to that page. All right, Mary had also mentioned about the new import tool. And as you can see, within the recurrent billing lines, you see the import and the export features here. Now, I'm actually going to show you how you can export. You simply click on the export action, and you will see a file that's being downloaded. The reason I'm showing you this is because this is a good way to actually create your own import template. It will give you all of the headers that are going to be relevant for the objects that you're trying to import into. So you can utilize this as a template to create your import files. Okay, once you have done that, what you want to do is, again, as Mary mentioned, we have a new object called import templates. I have created a couple here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on new to create a brand new import template. You simply give it a name. You provide the detailed object and the parent object. So if you're dealing with a recurring payables, I will simply select the detailed object as recurring payables line. And the parent object as recurring payables object. And you simply save that. Okay, once you have saved this, then you will simply click on setup. And we'll simply load the file, the import template file that we just saw. Into this window and click on next. Once I click on next, you will see all of the fields here. So here is it looks like I don't, oh, there's one thing that I did not do. One thing I do need to specify in this import template is that my file has a header so that the system will recognize what header items in my import file is related to each of the columns. So going back, you can see the target fields that you want to map to, such as date, okay. Looks like this one doesn't want to cooperate with me. So let me show you the one that I've created previously. Okay, as you can see, there's the header from my file. Here's the target object, which is the recurring billing lines object. And I have gone through and specified which field those headers are related to. Okay. Also, actually, when Mary mentioned some of the lookup fields, you can actually specify them by either name or the ID. And this group by bullet, this is very important. So this import tool will give you the ability to import both the header and the line items at the same time. In order for you to group those line items, you have to specify what you're grouping them by. In this instance, we're saying that we're grouping all of these lines, the billing lines, to the recurring billing header, okay? This will provide that grouping mechanism when it goes through the import process. Okay, so now that we have the template, import template created, and we have a file that we can import into, let me go back to the recurring billing record here, and I'll go ahead and simply import that file here. It's as simple as just simply clicking on the import, uploading the file, clicking on next, and select the template that we've created just a minute ago, and click on import CSV. Now this, I've actually gone through the process of showing you an error so that you will see exactly where to look for the error message when you're going through the import process. It will tell you all the way over to the right-hand side. It says, hey, a required field is missing. The recurring billing column is missing. So it looks like I'm trying to import this file for a billing line item without specifying which recurring billing record that I'm trying to import into. Okay, so let's go ahead and do it correctly this time. And what you will notice is it's an immediate import. So as you can see, I have an additional line that's been created in this billing recurring billing record, and this is the record that has been imported in. Okay.
All right, TK, thanks. Was that all of your demo? Yep. Thank you for that. That was an awesome demo. One thing to point out, you can use that import tool to import just header information, or you can use it to import header and line item in a master detail relationship. So really cool tool. Play around with it. See, it's got lots of advantages there to using one of the Salesforce tools. So let's go back into the slide deck now. We're going to talk about tax. Doesn't everybody want to talk about tax? My favorite subject. We open the hood on tax compliance, providing you with greater flexibility to assist you in complying with those more complicated tax scenarios. So as you'll recall, in a previous release, we added the ability to override the tax address fields for the more complicated tax scenarios where, for example, you may have goods being shipped from multiple locations, or the shipping address on the billing may not be the shipping address that is required for determination of tax. Okay, so in our latest release, we went a few steps further to allow you to configure tax at the ledger level, giving you the ability to configure, for example, multiple Avalara accounts, which we understand some of you have. I don't know how many, but you can imagine a business acquiring another business. You have, two separate Avalara accounts. You want to continue using them. You can now configure different tax calculation modes for your different lines of businesses. So, for example, you may need to assign a point of sale calculation mode in one of your ledgers and a shipment calculation mode in another ledger. And you can now do that. And finally, we're giving you the ability to map companies or ledgers configured in Accounting Seed to your companies configured in Avalara. After installing the latest release, you will see that when you go to tax settings, it's not taking you to one page where you're configuring tax settings for the entire org. You're going to go to a list view of tax settings records, and during the migration process after installing, we will have created a tax settings record for you, moving all that tax configuration from that org-wide page into a tax settings record. You want to review that after after it's installed in Sandbox and production. Make sure all the settings are right. If you have additional ledgers and you need additional tax settings records, you can create them there. So now let's take a look. Let's go in TK, and we'll go to our accounting homepage. I want you to see where you can access tax settings from. So if you go to Accounting Home, go to Utilities, you'll see your tax settings. And it's similar to what you had before, but note that you're going to be taken to a different place. So when you select tax settings, you're going to be taken to the list view of tax settings records. After installing, if you're an existing customer, it will have created one tax settings record for you, as I mentioned, with the tax settings from the previous org guide tax settings page. So to create a new tax settings record, you would just click on New, and you're going to choose one of two options. You'll give it a name, whatever name is appropriate. The tax settings method can be either AvaTax or it's Accounting Seed Native Tax. If you're using Accounting Seed Native Tax, there really isn't a reason to create more than one tax settings record. Okay, but if you're using AvaTax, there are multiple options, and so you may need to create multiple tax settings records in that case. So once you select your method, then it's AvaTax. Let's say you move down to the second half of this dialog. Your AvaTax license, we've created a new object for this. So if you have multiple licenses, you would just simply create a new license record. And here, this is where you'd enter your account ID and your license key there for AvaTax. Okay. Going back, you can select your tax calculation mode, as I mentioned. So if you have multiple ledgers and you want to use point of sale for one and shipment for another, you just create two tax settings records and assign, each calculation mode to each record. So after you've created all of your tax settings records, the last step in this is assigning it to ledgers. If you have only one ledger, you would just go to the ledger record and you would select the appropriate tax settings record. But let's go take a look if you have multiple ledgers where you can go to make this easy. Again, off of Accounting Home, you would go to your setup, and this time under configurations, go to multi-ledger defaults. Okay, so this is a page where you can set multiple defaults, but you can also set the tax settings record that you want to use for each ledger, and the sales tax company code can be set there as well. And that would only need to be set for your ledgers that are using AvaTax. Okay. So now that is multi-tax, multi-ledger tax. Let's go back into our slide deck, TK, and we'll take a look at some of the other customer requested enhancements that we've included in this release. All right, so we have this new release component that you're going to see on the homepage. Homepage, you're going to notice, is going to start taking a different shape. With each new release, we're going to be, well, I won't say with each new release, but in future releases, we'll continue to build out the homepage. In this release, we have created a release component, and this will give you information highlighting the current release and features in that release, and that release is the release that's installed in your org. Okay, it'll have links to knowledge base on how to configure those new features. So please take a look at that when you have a few minutes. We've added clone with lines for all of the 3 recurring objects. So you can go to any one of them when you go in and are creating a record. You can clone an existing. If you don't see that button, just make sure you update your page layout and bring down that button. That should be available. On the financial reports page, let's say you've gone in and you've created a P&L and you've selected the ledger and the accounting period and all the glabs, and you run the report, and then maybe later you added additional records and you saved it and you posted. You want to rerun that same report. Well, rather than having to go back and select that same report and select the ledger, select the accounting period, select all your glabs, you can actually go back into a previously run report and rerun it. So just go select that report that you had run before, and you'll see that rerun button at the top right of the page, and you can just rerun it, and it will rerun that report based on all of the data to date. So any new records that have been added since the last time you ran that report. We have added new type and source fields on the journal entry. So these are just added as, again, all of these are customer requested enhancements. You wanted additional fields to further categorize your journal entries, and you now have those fields. Okay. So, TK, yeah, we updated logic on the recurring objects. We amended the formula, so now we will not create any new recurring records when the next date is greater than or equal to the end date. Before it was just greater than, we updated the logic to now be greater than or equal to. Again, going back to the financial reporter, default currency. So currency field is a relatively new field that we added to the financial reports page when we introduced foreign currency translation. Now, when you go to a financial report and you select it and you select a ledger, it's going to default, the currency field is going to default to the currency of the ledger selected. If that ledger had been a part of a foreign currency translation, you will be able to run that ledger in both local and reporting currency. But if that's the ledger that you don't have, you're not in multi-currency, and it hadn't been translated, well then it's just going to default to the currency of the ledger, which is exactly what you would want, so you won't have to change that field. The new customer refund feature, now we give you the ability to match cash out bank transactions to customer refunds, which are negative cash receipts. Okay, so there are more enhancements in the release, so make sure that you look at the release notes, and this will give you information on everything that was added to the release. We are going to now move on to take a look at these release pushes. So notice the sandbox should already have been upgraded. We pushed this out on October 2nd. If you're not on our list, if your sandbox work is not on our list, then you may not see it in the sandbox, in which case you can create a case in our support portal, and we will provide you with the link so that you can upgrade Sandbox and test there. We will be pushing out the winter release to your production boards either on October 30 or on November 6. So once again, we encourage you to take advantage of this time to test the winter 23 release in your Sandbox before we push it to your production org. Okay. And then just as a reminder, we have these resources available to you on accountingseed.com, the Accounting Seed University, knowledge base community, our blueprints and guides and FAQs and documentation. So make sure that you do take advantage of these resources. And your feedback is really, really important to us. As you can see, we're putting in these features based on these features that you're requesting in this forum. So make sure that if there is anything that you want to see in the product, you submit feedback to us. All right, James, I think you are up. We are moving into Q&A here, and I haven't looked at the questions here. Not sure how many we have, but I am going to leave it in your capable hands.
Okie dokie. I'm not sure how capable, but we'll try to give it our best. We've had a few questions so far, but again, if you have a specific question on the presentation or on the winter 23 release, please go ahead and submit them, and we're going to walk through them as we get them. Now, one of the questions was if they could get a copy of the slides in addition to the video, which I assume is easily feasible.
I would imagine so, absolutely. So we will have a log of all of this. So we'll know who had requested those slides, and absolutely we can send you a copy of that.
And let me see what else. One of the questions was, is the list of errors when you get them on the import feature, you get the panel with the with showing you what those errors are, if that can be made exportable. If you have a very large number of errors, it would be nice to have that as an exported feature. So I've said that that's something that we can certainly add into our product development team.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Will we be looking at the bankrec PDF? That not immediately in this particular release. I'm not sure exactly what the error would be, but if there's a specific issue with something, then please submit a case on that. Again, the case is your easiest way to get a question or an issue or something addressed by our support team. So anytime you have a question on the current issue or something that you can't figure out, put in a request for that. Here's one that's come up, which is near and dear to my heart, and that was, where is the Plaid integration coming? I'm not sure if y'all are aware, we are in the process of adding a brand new bank aggregator to our list so that in addition to Yodlee, you will be able to go to and select Plaid. Plaid has a lot of new advantages. It uses all of the open banking APIs. It's a lot more stable. We like the security features in there, and that will be coming out in the beginning of December in the Winter 23 Release 2. Something to remember is releases, the Release 2 and 3 that we typically have on a major release, these are pulls, which means that once we put them out, we will make the links available and you can install those on your org. And as always, we recommend installing on the sandbox first and then moving those to production. But if you would like to have the new Plaid release, which is going to be a really nice thing to have, they support thousands of banks. Definitely you want to keep track first week of December when the new release 2 comes out for the Winter 23.
So, and then if you choose to not install those pull releases, then this will be included in the next push release.
All right. And there was another question about, are we going to be looking at refreshing the financial reports?
Yes, so we do. We have lots of roadmap items, but let me just say a disclaimer, we're not going to do anything based on the information we learned today, but yes, we are looking at building out a new financial reporting tool that will be able to handle high volumes and do more than it will do everything our existing financial reporting tool can do, plus much, much more. So I have already gone through and we've identified requirements for it, and we're just going to move it through our process. But we're really excited about that, and that's in our pretty near future. I can't tell you exactly when you're going to see the first iteration of this, but we're very excited about that.
All right. Another question it falls into what I call a request, and that's when having the field name, the target name side by side on the creation templates. Again, these are great suggestions. The best place to put a suggestion is in the feature request that's available to you on in our community. That is looked at constantly. We use that to build out the options that we have. The user community is really important to us, and that is a great place when you have a suggestion to put it. In fact, most of the time in a case, if somebody comes in and says, would be a really neat idea, right? The next thing you're going to do is you're going to get a reply that says, then put it in the feature request. All right, because that's the spot to put it. All right. For those of us ready for up to winters. There was a question about, is there anything in summer 22's R2 and R3? Because again, we do have those pull releases, associated for very specific little features that we will put out. Those are already available. Those can be installed at any time. Everything that's in the summer release 2, summer release 3 are included in the winter 23. So you can directly upgrade to winter 23 and you will be completely up to date at that point. All right. And let me see, are there any other specific I haven't gotten a whole lot of questions. If y'all don't have a lot, that's great. You can always ask your question afterwards. If you have a specific question in a case, you can shoot that over to us. And as mentioned, the import feature, you can build your own import templates. You can make those for whatever custom objects or our objects if you want to build an import template for something.
Yeah, so again, I tried that out. I'm always trying things. So just like the advanced line manager component, I created some custom objects and I dropped that in and it worked marvelously. I loved it. Same with the import tool. It's designed, now this development team is designing these components to work in a very generic fashion where you can use it across your org even for custom objects. So yes, you're identifying what object, header, and line items you want to import into. And it's the same mechanism, whether you're using it for accounting seed data or custom data. It was designed in a way to work with any data in your Salesforce org.
All right. And I think there was a question on what specifically are the new 23 items that are not that were not included in the summer releases 22 and 23. Obviously, there was we had the ability to match the negative cash receipts, the updating the import templates. We've got all the little changes that we've made to the home pages.
Yep.
So there are lots of little pieces that are out there. They're all within the release notes. We definitely think if you want a complete list of what's in summer 23, is to go to that release notes, look through it. And we have links in the release notes to take you to more detailed information if you wanted to go and look at the actual knowledge base. So knowledge base has been completely updated already and is available to you for the winter 23. And we also have our ASU has been updated for winter 23. So all of those are available to you. Do we have the import feature available for our cash receipts and cash disbursements? The cash receipt and cash disbursement are a single object.
Oh, but you can import into a single object as well. So you can use this import tool to import just, header information, which would be if there's no master detail, it's just you're importing into, a specific object. So yes, it can be used for any data to import. Now, don't use it to migrate, 50,000 records, okay? So it wasn't designed for that bulk import. This was designed for small imports and day-to-day imports kind of things. You're still going to want to use data loader for the larger imports.
There was also another question about will the advanced line manager come with the other detail objects, namely the billings, the payables, that is in the works.
That is definitely in the works. There was some special logic that we had on some of those other pages. So our thought process here was, let's get this out to you. Let's get your feedback on this. And then as we go to implement it on each of those other objects, we'll need to figure out, obviously, that special logic that was on those other pages, pull that out and put that into the advanced line manager. So we will be putting this into all other objects over time.
All right, and then there was a question about the allocation for CR and CD. I assume that this is the amortization process for, oh no, that's revenue and disbursement. An export feature for the allocation of CR/CD. Again, that's not a feature right now that I offer, but again, guess where you should put this? In the feature request section. Definitely put it there. A lot of great things come from the feature requests. Yours could be the next one. Do I sound like a commercial?
Generically, because I heard allocation and I thought about some of this automation that we get requests for on both the AR and AP side, and TK can attest to this. We have been busy working on features that can help you automate both accounts receivable and accounts payable, so you can certainly look forward to that in future releases. We'll begin to see that, and really in the next big release, you know, as we're looking at, our focus has been, well, both really, accounts receivable and accounts payable. We'll be releasing some nice new features that will help you automate.
And another question was, you know, we in Bank Direct Connect, that was our first and initial take on using drawers. The next advanced feature was the advanced line manager with then built out in drawers. Yes, they are looking at going back and looking at Bank Direct Connect and looking at what configurability can they utilize out of the advanced line manager into BDC. That will be a future enhancement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yes, to make sure that that's submitted, if not already, in the feature request form.
Yes, and just a reminder, you know, all of this is being recorded. Everybody who's attending today will be sent a link to that recording along with a copy of or a link to the slide presentation. All right.
Any other questions, James? Did we get to all of them?
Last one is, are improving the bank reconciliation reports anywhere on the roadmap?
It is. I mean, I was looking at that, what was it, TK, last week? I was looking at that. So yes, that is a part of, I'll tell you, that's a part of our financial core, what I consider our financial core. Any kind of banking, accounts receivable, accounts payable, journal entries, GL system, that's our financial core. And we're going to continue to build on that. We do understand that we have had requests to improve the bank reconciliation reports. And yes, as I mentioned, I was looking at it last week. So we are beginning to look at that, and you know, hopefully you will see that soon in one of these webinars, upcoming webinars.
And again, if you have a specific need, a specific request, something that you think that's, you know, not your only person, but something that you think everybody would benefit from, put it in as a feature request.
Yep.
I think I've only said that about 15 times. So I got 5 more times I can say that, guys. All right. All right. I haven't gotten any requests or questions here in the last couple of minutes. I tell you what, again, I think we've come to the end of the questions and answer section. If you have something specific, step 1, look at the release notes. Step 2, look at the KB. And then if those 2 don't answer your questions, absolutely put it in a case and a product consultant can help you.
And if you start the case with Dear James, then James might even pull that case to help you.
Let's not do that, folks.
All right, thank you so much for spending time here today. I hope you found it useful. Again, the recording will be made available to you, and whoever asked for that PDF of the slide deck, we will make that available to you as well. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.